It began like any other neighborhood squabble, a complaint about a fence, a minor fine for a mailbox color, a polite request to trim a bush. But behind the smiles and perfectly mowed lawns, HOA-Karen ran her board like a dictatorship. Rules were arbitrary, fines were excessive, and intimidation was standard practice. Neighbors whispered in fear, avoiding eye contact when she patrolled the streets, clipboard in hand. Families followed her rules blindly, hoping to avoid attention. But small mistakes were punished with letters, phone calls, and increasingly outrageous fines. Then came the day that changed everything. A neighbor refused to pay a fine for something they didn't do, a simple, harmless action blown out of proportion. HOA-Karen responded with her usual tactics, letters, threats, and constant surveillance. But this time, the resident didn't back down. They sought legal advice, and that one decision would ripple through the entire neighborhood, threatening to unravel the HOA's grip. It was a tiny act of defiance, but it carried the potential to destroy everything HOA-Karen had built on fear and control. The message was clear. One person standing up could expose what years of intimidation had tried to hide. The letter arrived like a bomb, a lawsuit filed by the neighbor who refused to pay the unjust fine. HOA-Karen and her board were shocked. Their intimidation tactics had always worked. Fear was their currency, and residents had always complied. But now, one person had broken the pattern. Emails flew, phone calls were made, legal threats were issued, but the lawsuit was airtight. Every fine, every notice, every overreach documented meticulously by the residents over months. The board began to panic. Meetings were called, documents were shredded, or so they thought. They tried to intimidate witnesses, but cameras, emails, and community vigilance made it impossible. Every attempt to cover up or twist the facts failed. Word spread quickly through the neighborhood. More residents stepped forward with evidence of abuses, fines for trivial infractions, harassment, and selective enforcement. The walls of HOA-Karen's empire were beginning to crumble. For the first time, she realized her tactics weren't invincible. Her control was fragile. The fear she relied on could be overcome. And the lawsuit? It was just the beginning. The once mighty HOA, built on intimidation, was now vulnerable. With the lawsuit filed, the residents found their courage. No longer afraid, they began submitting every piece of evidence they had: emails, violation notices, photos, and videos of HOA-Karen's relentless enforcement. At the next HOA board meeting, the energy had shifted. Phones recorded every word, neighbors spoke up, and the board could no longer bully the room into silence. HOA-Karen tried her usual tactics, interrupting, shouting, claiming rules were broken. But the facts were on the residents' side. Dates were verified, fines disproven, and abuses exposed. The arrogance she had wielded for years now crumbled under scrutiny. Even board members who had once supported her began to distance themselves. They whispered, hesitated, and avoided eye contact. The once unshakable figure of authority was now isolated. Legal advisors, city officials, and community leaders attended subsequent meetings, watching as the HOA's reputation unraveled. Families who had lived in fear were now empowered, united, and vocal. By the end of this stage, it was clear. HOA-Karen's reign of terror was nearing its conclusion. The power she had so carefully hoarded was slipping through her fingers, one document, one testimony, and one brave resident at a time. The lesson? Tyranny cannot survive in the light, and the more she tried to control, the more she exposed herself. The lawsuit reached its climax. Courts reviewed the evidence, city officials audited the accounts, and residents watched as HOA-Karen's empire of intimidation crumbled. Every illegal fine, every misused dollar, every unjust notice was exposed. The board, once untouchable, faced scrutiny and public humiliation. Meetings that had been arenas of fear became stages of accountability. HOA-Karen tried to assert control one last time, but the room was no longer hers. Families she had terrorized for years now spoke with confidence, showing documents and recordings that left her powerless. Her previous allies sat silently, knowing there was no defense for the abuses committed. Policies were rewritten, fines were refunded, board members were replaced by responsible, transparent residents who valued fairness over fear. And HOA-Karen? Her reputation was destroyed, her authority gone, her name remembered only as a warning. Never underestimate a community that stands together. The neighborhood had won, not with threats, not with fear, but with courage, documentation, and unity. The lawsuit had not just corrected wrongs, it had rewritten the rules, ensuring no future HOA Karen could operate unchecked. Now, we want to hear from you. Have you ever faced an HOA bully or abusive authority? Share your story in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this story so more people know they're not alone and so toxic HOA behavior is exposed everywhere.